So in this video, I'm going to discuss a few tips that I think are helpful in terms of improving your listening skills. And I have to say, I really do appreciate you all for giving me this idea. A lot of you wrote this in the comments of my most recent videos, and I thought, why have I not done a video on that? That actually would be pretty useful. And so in this video, I'm going to do that. Hopefully this video helps. What I'll do is I'll break this video down into two different sections. The first section is going to be practicing your listening from Spanish speakers that come from specific regions. And so the video will be broken down into a group of countries and then another group of countries. Why is that? It's because I think there's a group of countries, native Spanish speaking countries where the Spanish is pretty crisp, it's pretty clear. And when I say easily understandable, I don't mean like you can just pick up from zero as a Spanish learner and understand it. I just mean that they pronounce the words pretty clearly. Obviously, we can't talk about a language, uniformly, but for the most part, the way that the average person speaks, in my experience from certain countries, is pretty clear. And there are other countries where it's clear once you understand the nuances and the characteristics of Spanish from those regions. And so in this video, I'd like to go through both of those. I actually plan on, sorry, I'm getting distracted by the cars. I actually plan on incorporating a few video clips so that we all, not just we all can test our ability to listen and our ability to decipher certain words from Spanish speakers from different countries. So with that said, again, I appreciate you all for this video idea, and let's get into some of the ways that you can improve your Spanish listening skills. So part one of this video is going to cover Spanish from countries like Mexico, Guatemala, Costa Rica, Peru, Honduras. These countries where, in my experience, the average person speaks pretty crisp Spanish. The first tip that I would recommend in terms of listening, improving your listening, is to improve your reading ability and your vocabulary acquisition. Now, again, I sound like a broken record here, but the only way that I was able to improve my listening was I would sit down, do grammar exercises, sit down and read. And then once I heard a word that I had already learned through my studying, aka reading or writing, once I heard a word in context when someone was speaking, that's when I was able to understand what that word means. I know that's super basic and super like, are you serious? You're doing a video on that? But that's literally how I progressively improved my listening skills. Again, this is in the first category though, from countries like with Spanish from countries like Mexico and Peru and Costa Rica, where people speak pretty clear Spanish, okay? There's some nuances here because slang is included, and I'll reference that with Mexican Spanish, but again, that's the first tip. And not even a tip, it's just what I did. I would sit down and read, sit down and do my grammar exercises. If I learned the word through my writings, that diablo means devil, or césped means grass, or triángulo means triangle. If I learn that word through reading, when I hear someone say that, I'm able to pick out the words. From the beginning, guys, I do want to mention that I did not feel like 90% comfortable because I'm still not at 100% in terms of listening, but I didn't get to the point that I am now with listening up until about a year and 2 months maybe, okay? So early on, again, that goes back to my reading point. Early on, all I'm doing when I'm trying to improve my listening is I'm learning words on my, during my study time, and I'm trying to interpret and translate those words when I'm listening to podcasts or watching videos or watching a series or a movie or things like that. So again, as you progressively pick up vocabulary, you'll notice when you're listening to Spanish from countries like these, again, Mexico, Guatemala, Costa Rica, Peru, places like this, I'm missing some, I'm sure, but places like this where the Spanish is pretty crisp, sorry, I can't even pronounce the word crisp, you'll notice that you can pick out words that you've acquired. You can pick them out because they're clearly audible. I'll give you an example. I'm going to put some clips of Spanish from these countries, and I want you to notice how much slower the Spanish is spoken, how much, I can't say better, but how the words are clearly pronounced. You can hear almost every syllable, every sound in the word. Take a look at these videos that I'm going to put here, and then we'll compare that with Spanish from other countries where I think you need to actually train your ear and do other things to learn that kind of Spanish.
Un video más, espero que se encuentren bien. Como pueden ver, estoy en el municipio de San Francisco el Alto, Totonicapán. Este es el mercado más grande de Guatemala y de Centroamérica. Aquí podemos encontrar todo tipo de textiles, pero de una manera pirateada.
So as you all can hear, although you may not understand everything that she's saying, if you don't have a wide Spanish vocabulary, it's clear that she's separating every word. She's pronouncing every word. Every syllable is clear. This is a Guatemalan, this girl is Guatemalan. And again, that's what I'm referencing here with this first section of Spanish speakers. Understanding her will not be difficult once you've improved your vocabulary enough. It's not a matter of training your ear. It's literally a matter of listening for the words that you already know. So here's one example of the first category of Spanish speakers and how you can improve your listening with this group of people.
¿Tú sabes de rancho o nomás de pueblo? O sea, ¿sí sabes de montar y esas cosas o no te gusta?
No, claro, claro. De hecho, hay muchas fotos que luego se las puedo subir con el emoji. Montaba toros, becerros. Así sin apelo, con nomás una, se llama berijera, una cuerda así que se enreda y montaba y caballos y todo, pues todos mis amigos de allá, eso hacen, es su hobby.
So this is another example of why I say Mexican Spanish, and again I group certain Spanish dialects in one category. It's clear. Again, some of the vocabulary that the singer here was saying, I'm not even familiar with, but I understand the words, the pronunciation of the words I understand. So all that tells me is I need to spend some time learning what those words mean. It's not a matter of training my ear to pick up on certain sounds, because the sounds that both of these guys are making, and Spanish from Mexico in general, is pretty clear sounding, okay? The only dilemma I can say with Mexican Spanish is that if you don't know the slang, it's almost like you're missing out. A lot of Mexicans use certain slang words that are like propio. It's like from Mexico in particular, that's not universally used. And so acquiring that vocabulary piggybacks off of my point of just having the words. It's not a difficult task once you have the words and you can recognize what you're hearing. Okay, so again, this will be the last video about the first category of Spanish. We're going to move on to the second category, where it's a lot more difficult to understand, because you have to understand a little bit more of the nuances of the language from different regions. Okay, so after you've seen those videos, hopefully you all see my point there. The Spanish from these countries, for the most part, is pretty crisp. It's pretty easy to understand once you have acquired vocabulary. Again, the key is to progressively acquire vocabulary, try to pick out the words that you understand, and over time that will accumulate and you'll be able to better understand Spanish from those countries in particular. Again, that is part one of the video, from countries where Spanish is spoken pretty clearly. Now, what I need to say, and again, I apologize for the cars, the people with their Mustangs revving their engines, but what I need to say here is I'm not saying that Spanish in the next category of countries is not spoken clearly. That's not what I'm saying. There's a wide variety of dialects in every country, right? But I'm just saying we have to acknowledge that Puerto Rican Spanish is different than Guatemalan Spanish, or Colombian Spanish is different from Mexican Spanish. So that's the point I'm making here. There's certain tricks and things that you need to look out for when you're listening to Spanish from the countries that I'm about to mention now. Okay, so again, step one, or tip one, acquire vocabulary. I know it's boring, but acquire vocabulary progressively. Try to just pick out words that you understand. That process will accumulate, where you won't be having to translate as much every time you hear something. Your brain will translate. Así que means so, or yo estaba means I was. That your brain will start to translate that on its own, okay? But again, picking up words, picking up vocabulary, and picking out words when you're listening will help you with that first step. Okay, so now we'll move on to the second category of countries. I'm going to put all of these countries in one category. The Spanish is completely different there, but I'm putting these countries in part two of the video because they have a distinct, very, very, very distinct accent that if you don't know the characteristics of the Spanish from there, you can be completely lost. Like, it will sound like they're not speaking Spanish. Again, not everybody from these countries. Hopefully you all understand that, right? Just there's a certain dialect, right? There's certain dialects in other countries. So Argentina would fall in this category. Colombia falls in this category. Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Cuba falls in this category. These are places where if you don't understand the nuances of how Spanish is spoken there, you will miss words, because you will think you did not hear the word necesito. You will think you didn't hear that word, but that word was said. But it's just that in certain regions of Colombia, they pronounce that word differently. They leave out some of the syllables. They leave out certain sounds. So with that said, I have a couple of tips in terms of improving your listening with Spanish from these countries. Again, step one, tip one, you have to acquire vocabulary. Once you have the vocabulary, you're basically trying to hear the words that you already have saved, pretty much. I'm thinking in Spanish, guardado, no guardadas. But like, you just have to think about, you have to acquire vocabulary and try to pick out those words. Again, this is when Spanish is spoken clearly. Now, in the second category of countries, the tip one as I just mentioned, is to look up, search online, what are some characteristics of Colombian Spanish. When I say Colombian Spanish, that's not an umbrella term because you have to look up what are some characteristics of Spanish, Español costeño from Colombia, the coastal accent, país accent from Antioquia, other accents, de Manizales. It's like, I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted. So as I was mentioning, I'm honestly losing count of what number I'm on, but the second step or third step, I'm not sure, is you have to look up how Spanish is spoken in these regions. What does that mean? You need to look up how is Puerto Rican Spanish pronounced? How is Costeño Spanish pronounced in Colombia? How do Argentinians pronounce the double L sound? You need to look that up so that when you hear something that sounds like it's not a word, or you hear something that sounds like it's strange, you can apply the rules that you've learned about Spanish from that region to what you're hearing, and then that will allow you to understand what's being said. I have a couple of examples here that I'll actually break down with I'll break down step by step what, at first, honestly, guys, I want to just play it and see if you can understand it. And I apologize for the wind. It's just cold. It's winter time here in Georgia, but I just want to play the clip, see if you understand it, and then I'll go back and explain how I've trained my ear with the help of this research on what can I expect to hear from someone that's from this region in Argentina, or this region in Colombia, or this region in Puerto Rico. What can I expect to hear, so that when I hear something like what I'm about to play, I can wrap my brain around, like, oh, they were saying that, even though it didn't sound like words that I'm familiar with, standard, whatever that means, Spanish. I understand now what they're saying because I understand the phonetics, the way that people from that region speak. Okay, so hopefully these next video clips can help you with that, and I'll put my audio behind that to explain what my brain is doing and what you all can do to help you better understand Spanish from these regions.
Buenas.
Ah, ¿qué pues, caballero?
¿Usted sabe dónde queda la finca de un señor José?
Ah, sí, señor, el ricachón de aquí enseguida.
¿Ricachón?
So I must ask you all, did you all understand that? If I'm being honest with you, when I first heard this, I did not understand that. Why is that? I was not familiar with this accent. I'm gonna play this back, but if you listen, the older guy, he's saying, it sounds like it literally sounds like he's not speaking Spanish. But if you understand the characteristics of Spanish spoken from that part of Colombia, Manizales, you would understand that he said he is not speaking like a dictionary or like an application would teach us to speak. He did not say, "Usted sabe dónde queda la finca de un señor José." He did not say that. The accent there is very fluid. It's like they're almost mixing the words together. So if you don't know that that's how they speak there, your ear will not be trained to listen for that. It won't be trained to listen for the words being mixed together. Also, it helps to understand that in Colombia and in many Spanish-speaking countries outside of those formal countries that I listed before, many times instead of saying, "¿Dónde está ubicado ese lugar?" which means, that's like a formal way of saying, where is that located, right? People don't speak that way. He basically literally translated. What he said was, where does that farm stay? Because queda means stay. But if you don't know that in Colombia they say that, you're going to be lost. You're going to be completely lost. So here's this video clip hopefully goes back to my point of you have to understand the nuances of the language. You have to understand that in this specific part of Colombia, these words are not going to be clearly pronounced. They're going to be kind of mixed together, jumbled together, and the sounds aren't going to cut. Like, they're not going to cut where you can clearly pick them up. You have to kind of mentally strain your brain a little bit to try to catch the words, catch the sounds that you know.
Buenas.
Ah, ¿qué pues, caballero?
¿Usted sabe dónde queda la finca de un señor José?
Usted sabe dónde queda la finca de un señor José.
Alexander, ¿usted qué está haciendo allá?
Va, le voy a acomodar las tejas para que no le entre más agua.
¡Se va a caer!
Eso no es nada más, yo sé, yo ya he hecho esto.
Y mire, con los zapatos. Ay, Alexander, ¿por qué no se quita esos chanclas y se pone otros zapatos?
So this is another perfect example of what I'm talking about. If you watched that video and had no idea what the mom was saying there, that's understandable. Two things happen there. She's speaking fast. She's speaking with the accent that we talked about. And you must understand that in this part of Colombia, they speak to each other with usted. They don't speak to each other using tú, the tú form of the verbs. So if you're expecting her to use verbs that end in the conjugations that we associate with tú, you're going to be lost in terms of what she's saying. Okay. Also, the son here says pa qué. That does not sound like Spanish. If you don't understand that, pa qué is a way that a lot of people say para qué, for what, para qué. And so there are a lot of nuances in the language that you just have to familiarize yourself with. It's not something that you can even look up in a book. I remember when I learned what pa qué means because I was listening to a song and I had to Google that. But when I Googled pa qué, it doesn't pop up. So you have to get that information through research, through YouTube videos, or using another point that I'm going to bring up here that can help you. So the next tip that I can give you all in terms of understanding Spanish from these countries is to make a friend either in real life or virtually that is from that country. Why is that? They can give you the little nuances of the language also. Things that you can't find by looking up and researching, you can pick up from native speakers that you know. Here's an example of what I do all the time. I'll be watching some content from a country. I'll watch it. I'm like, what does that mean? I can think of an example now. Causa. And I was watching like a homemade movie. That sounds weird. I was watching like a movie from Colombia, right? Like a I can't describe it. Like it was like made by some teenagers, right? And it was like a story that they had come up with about their lives in Colombia, but it was acted out. Long story short, one guy said, "Ay causa." I did not know what causa meant. I did not know what that meant, right? So all I did is I recorded what I was watching. I sent it to like 3 of my friends in Colombia. They all responded and told me basically like causa in that part of Colombia means way or dude, like way like like Mexicans say, or dude, or hey brother, or manito, which means hermano. But so I'm rambling here. Having friends virtually or people that you know virtually that can help you translate what these what these words mean or how people are speaking or things that you can look out for in terms of the pronunciation will help. So that's the next tip. Meet somebody from that place that can explain to you what someone's saying to you, okay? Okay, the final 2 tips that I can give you, and I'm lumping these 2 together because I am freezing cold out here. The next one is to just literally consume a lot of content to train your ear. What do I mean by that? Once you know, okay, if I'm listening to some people from this region, some Argentinians, if I hear cho, that sound, that is the Y in Argentinian Spanish, or it can be the double L. And so I would progressively, once I get comfortable with that the first time, I apologize for the wind. Give me about 30 seconds. The wind. So what I was saying is once let's hypothetically say I got comfortable with what those words or what those sounds sounded like in Argentinian Spanish, I would flood my brain with Argentinian Spanish until those sounds became automatic to me, until I registered that this is the same thing, this yo sound is the same thing as yo. And I'm not super familiar with Argentinian Spanish, so I can't give you a lot of examples there, but if I'm listening to some Dominican speak, I know that if I hear cómo estás, and these are very basic examples, right? But I know once I hear that, I'm not going to hear cómo estás like that. It's just not going to happen. So as always, please let me know if this video has helped. I've been very distracted in this video, as I kind of always am. And it doesn't help that it's super cold out here. I don't have, again, a lighting set up in my house, so I have to record outside. Plus, I actually like it. So hopefully this video helped. The wind is coming now. At the end of this video, I'm going to place a few clips, and I'll talk over those clips to walk you through what I'll do in situations where I don't understand what I'm watching, okay? And so hopefully this next part helps. With that said, I'm probably going to end the video after those clips are played. Ciao pues, I appreciate it. And again, this wind is going crazy and my hands are freezing. I'll see you all in the next video, and thank you all so much for this video idea. Ciao.
Si yo le digo Estados Unidos, ¿qué es lo primero que le viene a la mente?
Did you catch that? Si yo le digo Estados Unidos, ¿qué es lo primero que le viene a la mente?
Si yo le digo Estados Unidos, ¿qué es lo primero que le viene a la mente?
A mí, imperialismo. Eso no tiene nada que ver conmigo, aunque tenga familia afuera, pero soy cubanísima, 100%.
Also notice that she didn't say eso no tiene nada que ver conmigo. She didn't even say eso like that. She's like, ejo, como es. I can't even mimic it, but she did not pronounce the S. Eso no tiene nada que ver conmigo. Que tenga familia afuera, pero soy cubana, she said cubana, 100%. Cubanísima, I think she said like that. A mí, imperialismo. Notice she didn't say imperialism like imperialismo. Imperialismo, she said it like that.
A mí imperialismo. Eso no tiene nada que ver conmigo, aunque tenga familia afuera, pero soy cubanísima, 100%.
Se reconforta, ¿me entiendes? Las cosas, a pesar de que nos las pongan mal, aquí vamos a estar bien, ¿oíste?
Buenas.
Did you all catch that? It's tough. You have to train your ear. You have to practice and listen to this stuff. Did you catch that? A pesar de que a las cosas las pongan mal, aquí vamos a estar bien. ¿Oíste? But he did not say it like that. Vamos a estar bien. ¿Oíste? But he said, vamos a estar bien. ¿Oíste? Did you hear? We're going to be fine. Did you hear that?
Se reconforta, ¿me entiendes? Las cosas, a pesar de que nos las pongan mal, aquí vamos a estar bien, ¿oíste?
Buenas.
Oye, lo vi un sobrino mío que está en Rusia.
This guy might be the hardest to understand because he's not only speaking with that accent, but he's got a different little thing going on. We said, uy, lo vi un sobrino mío que está ahí en Rusia. It does not sound like that. It sounds like this guy's not speaking Spanish, but he said, uy, lo vi un sobrino mío. He didn't sound like that, but he said that. Sobrino mío que hay ahí, I think he said, or está en Rusia.
Oye, lo vi un sobrino mío que está en Rusia.
Si yo te digo Estados Unidos, ¿qué es lo primero que te viene a la mente? Ya para terminar el video.
So I've already gone over the question that he's asking everybody. What's your opinion of the United States? When I say that, what comes to your mind? But if you listen to the end of what he said, para terminar el video de hoy. It does not sound like he said that if you don't have a trained ear. You have to practice listening to people who speak like this. He said, para terminar el video de hoy. But it sounded like he said one word. Listen again.
Si yo te digo Estados Unidos, ¿qué es lo primero que te viene a la mente? Ya para terminar el video.
Estados Unidos.
Estados Unidos. Estados Unidos, as he laughs.
Estados Unidos.
¿Qué te viene a la mente? ¿Qué tú piensas si yo te digo Estados Unidos?
¿Qué te viene a la mente? ¿Qué tú piensas cuando te digo los Estados Unidos? He said something like that. I'm kind of watching the video and recording this at the same time, but hopefully you all can pick out the words that the interviewer is saying really fast.
¿Qué te viene a la mente? ¿Qué tú piensas si yo te digo Estados Unidos?
De que es un país que son...
De que es un país, but notice he does not say es. He doesn't say un país. He says un país. So if you hear that, you might think he's talking about a pie when he's saying país, el país, the country.
De que es un país que son... el pueblo de Estados Unidos es bueno, los ciudadanos son buenos, pero los gobiernos son, tú sabes.
Okay, again, you have to pick up the fact that he's not pronouncing the S's. El pueblo, but he doesn't say it like this. El pueblo, Estados Unidos es bueno. El pueblo, Estados Unidos es bueno. Los ciudadanos son buenos. Los ciudadanos. Listen, he's not saying ciudadanos. He's not pronouncing it like that. Ciudadano. Sounds like he's not even saying ciudadanos, the citizens. Pero los gobiernos, tú sabes. Again, los gobiernos, tú sabes. Los gobiernos, tú sabes.
El pueblo de Estados Unidos es bueno, los ciudadanos son buenos, pero los gobiernos son, tú sabes. Esto para Facebook,
No, baja.
Esto es para Facebook. That was so confusing to me. I was like, what is he saying? Esto para Facebook. Esto para Facebook. That's what it sounds. Esto para Facebook. But he said, esto es para Facebook. Is this for Facebook?
Esto para Facebook,
No, baja.
Oye, después del manicero. Miguel, ¿cómo tú estás? ¿Estás bien?
Me llaman unos amigos que eran panaderos y entonces me dijeron, ve a Timbi, venite para acá, que estamos rumbeando. No, yo estoy sin plata, manito, estoy ayayay. Pues sin embargo me fui.
So to be honest, towards the end of this video, I'm losing time in terms of describing everything that's being said. So I just want you to pick out some things that this guy said. Manito. That means hermano, but they're saying hermanito. And so they shorten that and say manito. I also want you to listen to how he said sin embargo, which means nevertheless. Sin embargo. I can't even mimic it, but notice he's saying sin embargo. And so if you haven't trained your ear to listen to this accent, you won't even realize he's saying nevertheless.
Me llaman unos amigos que eran panaderos y entonces me dijeron, ve a Timbi, venite para acá, que estamos rumbeando. No, yo estoy sin plata, manito, estoy ayayay. Pues sin embargo me fui. y estoy así sentado, relajado en una banquita cuando ellos están tirando salsa choque, cógeme que me voy, así el estilo.
So if you listen carefully at the end, again, I'm not breaking down everything that he's saying, but he says, así es el estilo. From what I understand, he's basically saying, así es el estilo. It's like a little smooth, cool way of speaking. It's like this is the style, like así es el estilo. But again, if you listen carefully, it sounds like he's not saying that. He's jumbling all those words together. So again, training our ears is super important. I don't want to keep repeating myself, but just wanted to add that there.
Una banquita cuando ellos están tirando salsa choque, cógeme que me voy, así el estilo. Prepárese que mañana vamos para la panadería a hacer pan. ¿Cómo así? Ah, ¿en serio sí? Y ahí para allá llegamos a la panadería. El señor empezó a hacer pan. Ve a Timbiquí, parece que hace el pan. Tan, y dice, no lo podía hacer pan.